Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and today's project is finally going to be one that includes some lathe work. I realize my last few videos have dealt primarily with using the mill and the surface grinder, but we're going to have some lathe work today. Excuse me. What we're going to do is add this rubber contact wheel. This is an 8-inch contact wheel. We're going to add this to my 2x72 belt grinder. What I have, the only accessory that I have for it now is the platen. But we're going to add this to it today. First thing we need to do in this video though is to make a shaft or a spindle for this to ride on. I looked through my material and I found this piece which is, again, everything I've got out here is mystery metal. But what I wanted was something that was the diameter of the outside of this inner race for this to ride against. Found this piece and it's within a few thousand, so it's exactly what we need. We're going to turn it down for this is a 30 millimeter bore, which is about 1.181, and then on the end of it we will turn down for a 3/4 by 10 threads per inch nut to hold it on. Let me zoom in down here on my little drawing and I'll give you a better idea of what it is that we're going to be working on in the first part of this video. All right, this section over here, 1.1 inches will be the spacer. The wheel will be over this part, but this will be a spacing area to space the wheel out to the center of the belt track, or where the belt's track right now. This will be a 1/2 inch by 1/13 internal thread in here. The arm on the surface grinder will be over here. This will butt up against it. Again, this length, we're going to work with it. I've done a rough measurement, it's 1.1. Again, that was just a rough measurement. When we get the wheel fitted on, we can do a whole lot better job of measuring it. So hopefully we don't have to put a bushing in there. If anything, I would want this a little bit short so I could put a bushing if necessary, or a spacer. This area here, approximately 2 inches, will be what goes through the wheel itself. Then we'll drop down to 3/4 of an inch for this nut. This is a 3/4 by 10 thread. So overall, well, first off, this outside dimension out here, that is good just like it is on this piece of material that I found in my supply bin. But we're going to set this up with a little over 4 inches sticking out and mill this from here out down to the 1.181, fit the wheel on. Then we'll get it to the exact length and then turn and turn this down and then single point thread that to 3/4 by 10. So let me get the camera set up on the lathe and we'll get to work on our spindle. Okay, I've got just a little mark on here that's our approximate overall length, but remember there's a portion up here that's going to be just for the spacer to get the wheel along the center of the belt track. The first dimensions we're interested in, all right, we'll zero out the DRO right there. Now we'll have 0.75 for thread and then 2 inches to go through the wheel. So 2.75. I'm going to give it just a little extra length there. Always cut off this end down here. I'm going to set my carriage stop. This is just a bump stop. All right, that's about 50 thousandths long. That's 2.8. So we'll bring the tailstock in. All right, everything looks good right there. I believe I got a good point on the insert. I'm going to take about a 60 thousandths cut, 30 thousandths off of each side, and then we'll be able to get a good measurement from that. All right, that's a good finish. I think that insert point is good. And to begin with, we can just go with a caliper measurement. And on the DRO up here, we measured, well, I'm sorry, we want 1.181, and we measured 1.521. So that's 340 thousandths. So I'm just going to take some about 60 thousandths cuts at the time until we get down close, and then I'll get the micrometer out and do a much better measurement. And I'll bring you back when we get a little closer to the last couple of cuts and we start measuring with the wheel. All right, we've got about 40 more thousandths to go, and I've repositioned the camera now to give you an overhead view of what's going on here on the lathe. I'm going to, like I say, we've got about 40 thousandths left to go. I'm going to take about 30 of it, and then we're going to start doing some serious measuring. And I've decided to keep this cool. Instead of using the cutting oil, I'm going to be using the flood coolant. Works well to keep it cooled, and it keeps it lubed. All right, let's see where we are now. Okay, that's showing we got about 10, 12 more thousandths to go. I'm going to take 5. Again, I want to sneak up on this, and we're going to actually measure it with the wheel from here on out. All right, that was just right there. I'm glad I didn't take any more than that. Okay, I'm going to put a little dicing on here so that I can mark exactly where I want to step down for the thread cutting. right, I'll let that dry and I'll bring you guys back in just a second. All right. So now what I want to do is simply, well, be sure that's up against the shoulder. Use my scribe. Yeah, I've got a mark there now. Let me put that back on and so I can explain to you what I'm going to do here, because I'm going to cut that just inside that mark. I want every bit of that mark to go away. I want my nut that's going up here, I want it to absolutely hit on this inner race on the bearing. So I'm going to cut that shoulder just a little bit, or cut this thread down just a little bit inside that. Then there'll be a bushing out here that that the nut will press up against. But I just don't want that to be long in the tooth, if you will. Just got a message from the wife, says if you want any lunch, come get it. So I'll be right back, guys. All right, I've got a full belly now. I think it may become more apparent later in the video of why I want to go just a little beyond this, the mark I made on the wheel there, or on the spindle. So let's come in. And I've got my carriage stalk just floating right now. All right, let's see where we are. One point one one, 1.119. And even though this is a 3/4 inch bolt, it will be threaded or the nut that we'll be using here is 3/4. 0.741 is what that reads. So we're gonna shoot for 0.745. And again, I'll set this up on my my DRO. At 374 thousandths. And like before, I'll bring you back when we get a little closer. Okay, let's see where we are now. Remember, we're shooting for about 745. 765. Double check that. 763. So about 18 thousandths. It's really, cutting the thread is what's going to make the difference here anyhow. So we'll go down about 18 thousandths. All right, so now I'm going to get the carriage stop out of the way. I'm going to put the parting tool in and cut a little thread relief here. All right, I believe I'm just going to have to back this live center out of the way for now. What I want to do is cut a little thread relief in here. All right, that should be good enough thread relief in. But before I put the change gears in and start cutting threads, I'll go ahead and put a little taper out here on this end, just a lead in for the threads. And I don't want much of a chamfer on these corners here, but I do want to knock off the edge just a little bit. All right, I'm going to get the change gears in now for a 10 threads per inch, and come right back and we'll cut some threads. Okay, I think I've got the correct change gears in there now. I thought I had it a minute ago and made a test run on there and found that I didn't have them. Well, I had the right gears, but I had them in the wrong order. So let's try this again. I'm going to simply touch off. Set our 0, and we'll take about 2/1000 to begin with. All right, let's get our thread gauge for 10 TPI. And we're on the money now. So we're going to start out and go in about 70 thousandths. It's going to be our goal, or going to be our starting point. So we'll come in. All right, that was 65 on the compound. And it's just barely starting. So we'll go on to our 70. All right, we're going to try about 2/1000, 2.5 thousandths this time. Still not quite there. It's all right. Well, this will make 75 now. And we're going to make a spring pass in that same setting. that is a very good thread. Just a little tight up there, so I'm gonna take about another thousandths on the dial. And we'll make a spring pass on that one as well. Very nice. All right, let's set the wheel on there and be sure we got all of our dimensions correct on that. Always keep a little acetone in these syringes. And no, it doesn't eat up these syringes. These are, I guess you'd call them animal grade. Now, if you can see what I was talking about here, I wanted that shoulder to be inside that race just a little bit, because I will cut a washer here. I'll cut a washer that'll go between the nut and that race. All right, so the next thing I need to look at, well, I need to get the change gears out of here. But then the next thing will be to cut this to length. All right, I've gone back and on the belt grinder and looked and measured again. And it looks like from the edge of the wheel that I'm going to need to space over 1.020 instead of the 1.1 that was on the drawing. Again, I can bush this if I need to, put a spacer in there, or I can bring it back and turn it face a little bit more off of it if necessary. I'd love to get it pretty close. All right, zero out the DRO there. Then come to 1.020. All right, and I'm not going to try to part this. That's almost 1.2 inches or 1.5 inches across there, almost 1.6. I'm not going to try to part all that, but I am going to use the parting blade and put a witness mark on there that then I'll saw it off and bring it back and face that edge. All right, that's enough of a mark there that I can see that well enough with the bandsaw. I'm not going to try to video that. All I'm going to do is carry this over to the bandsaw, cut it off right here, then we'll come back and I'll video the facing of it. All right, I'm back from the saw now. I like to, well, I started out cutting. I was cutting on the inside of my witness mark. Didn't really want to do that. I wanted to leave something to face here. So I stopped the saw and moved it over a little bit. That should do it maybe. While we're right here, we're going to put a little chamfer on that edge. All right, now if you recall from the drawing, in In this end, we want to drill and tap a 1/2-13 hole, and that will be to mount this piece to the slide arm that goes in the belt grinder. So we'll get our center drill. And we'll get the tap drill for the 1/2-13. Just going to give a little lead-in taper there. We'll see if this will power tap in just a little ways. I'm going to need to tighten that down considerably more. Okay, I don't believe that tap is quite sharp enough. Let me try another one. All right, we're just going to have to tap that by hand. That's a little too much for the chuck. Of course, I'm sure you're aware of it, but continuous turning hard steel like that in a chuck, drill chuck, will very quickly wear out your chuck jaws. When doing something like that, I like to push the emergency stop on my lathe so I don't accidentally hit the power button. All right, I believe that's to the bottom. Now we'll put a bottom end tap in there. This tap has quite a lot of lead in. All right, I believe we're in there now. I believe we've hit the bottom. So here's where we are on this project. We've got our spindle for the wheel made, tapped on both ends. Next thing will be to cutting the length of the arm and mounting this on the arm. So be right back.